Jedi, Sith, and the ones in between, many of them insanely powerful both with the Force and with the lightsaber. But anyone can be beaten by superior skill, or more importantly, knowledge, over one's opponent. Welcome to a new series where we will be looking at specific characters within Star Wars, analyzing their skill, and then determining and explaining how one may be able to defeat them. The lightsaber, a weapon feared and admired by many in the galaxy. Force users capable of wielding such a weapon may create an illusion that it is easy to use, but the reality is, it is extremely difficult and requires years of practice. Some use the weapon in flurries of aggression and fury, such as Form 7 practitioners, and others with the acrobatics and leaps of Form 4. But a select few possess true mastery of their form, and hardly any in comparison to the Sith we will be discussing today, quite possibly the best swordsman in Star Wars canon, Count Dooku. Before his time as the Lord of the Sith, Dooku had been a Jedi Master, elevated within the Order for his wisdom, but above all, his skill. Under Grandmaster Yoda, Dooku developed in all aspects of the Jedi way, including the Force, but he stood head and shoulders above the rest with his skill with the blade. Dooku's preferred form was Form 2, Makashi. Makashi is considered to be the most dueling-centric of all lightsaber fighting styles, meaning the users of the form were all about blade-to-blade combat all of the time. The grace of the form is not even touched by any of the other styles, as the whole idea is to be a superior swordsman than one's opponent, and triumph over them with a base and superior skill. While other forms did focus heavily, if not largely, on blade-to-blade combat, none but Makashi was solely dedicated to it. In single combat, victory over a Makashi master was near impossible, as the form excels against a single opponent. A true master of Makashi would seldom defeat an enemy with a single strike, although well-placed killing blows were not hugely uncommon. Against another skilled duelist, however, a Makashi master would slowly dismantle them. A jab here, a slice here, until their opponent was nothing but ribbons. Each move of a Makashi sequence was connected, and strangely beautiful, with each cycle of the blade feeding into the next. While in the midst of a duel, it could sometimes appear as if each movement had been meticulously planned out beforehand. However, in some cases this commitment to the flow of the lightsaber could become a weakness, as skilled opponents could potentially predict a practitioner's next move. Dooku, however, accommodated for this, implementing several safeguards such as drastic abandonment of sequences, although this was only implemented against individuals he deemed real threats. As a Jedi, only two were said to have the capability to rival Dooku with the lightsaber: Mace Windu, who was held as his equal, and Yoda, who was considered his superior, but only by a small margin. This fact would later go on to anger Dooku, as he would proclaim himself a superior swordsman to his former master. The best of all would be the strongest student. Yes, wisest, most learned in the ways of the Force. Best of all, Dooku would be our greatest student, our greatest failure. Makashi was also a form seldom used during Dooku's time, as blasters were common weapons in the galaxy, and Form 2 was particularly weak to blaster fire, again due to its concentration on dueling. This both played into Dooku's greatest advantage and hindrance. While yes, he had a more difficult time repelling blaster fire and was not at the peak concerning non-dueling combat. Because blasters were so prevalent, few Jedi used his form, as they believed the ability to deflect blaster fire was a necessity. Because few used the form, few were familiar with it, enabling Dooku to often catch unprepared Jedi totally off guard, and defeat them fairly easily with his command over Makashi. With all of Dooku's skill, how would anyone be able to defeat such a master of the blade in a duel? The answer? With all the great strengths of Makashi, it holds one weakness, one flaw that cost the Count his life. The form is grace incarnate, but it lacks something. It lacks sufficient strength. To defeat a Makashi master, and as an extension Dooku, a good start would be to throw off the rhythm of their movements and sequences. In the middle of a graceful jab, smash your lightsaber against your opponent's blade, disrupting the flow. Although intimidating, if one is to survive a duel with a Makashi master, they must push an assault. They must actively fight against the flow created by the form, and exploit that although their blade work is likely superior, their strength is not. However, one must always be prepared, as Makashi emphasizes agility, and a single overextension could mean the end with a well-placed strike. But if one accounts for sufficient defense, as well as strong power-based attacks, what once seemed impossible begins to take form. Head-to-head, the form, and as an extension, Dooku weakens. It cannot match the power necessary to achieve victory. Dooku would attempt to break off the engagement, fall back into a sequence. You must again upset it with power-based strikes. Dooku would never attempt to meet an opponent head-on, as this is when he would be at his weakest. Again, the solution: force him to. Dooku also favored drastic retreats and advances in attempts to throw his opponent off. If for a time he is able to hold one's power blows off, he will fall back and attempt to regroup. The assault must be maintained at all times. Dooku must not be allowed to gather himself. The form best suited to beat Dooku is the form used by the man who killed him, Anakin Skywalker. In many duels, Dooku is able to outmaneuver and use the grace of his form to keep ahead, keeping the whole fight in his flow and continuously moving, discouraging a full-blown attack by his adversaries. Anakin's form was Form 5, the Dejemso variant. The form allowed decent defense, but above all else, emphasized immediate retaliation following. The difficulty Anakin and all practitioners of Form 5 have is the limited mobility, an aspect Dooku excels at. The key to beat Dooku would be to attempt to keep pace with him, and never allow him to regroup, upsetting his blade work and eliminating his greatest strength, his precision and speed. So that is how one would go about defeating Count Dooku. I know in this video we didn't really address the Count's force abilities because this series is solely based off of how to beat a certain character, and for the case of Dooku, did not involve an emphasis on the force, but rather dueling tactics. In the future, there will be other characters where the use of the force may be the key to their defeat. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the first installment of the new series on the channel. If you did, please leave a like to tell me that you want to see more. If not, we will go ahead and continue with other series on the channel. So tell me what you think about Dooku and his lightsaber fighting style, as well as the way to defeat him. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, maybe consider subscribing to ensure you stay up to date with everything Star Wars related. If you have any lore topics or questions you want answered, do not hesitate to tweet them at me at StupendousWave on Twitter or leave a comment and I will try my best to answer or make a full video dedicated to that topic. Thanks again for watching, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.